In the next few seconds, you're going to witness a transformation that left thousands speechless in the arena and millions more rewinding the clip online just to believe their eyes. This is the story of how one young woman fooled every single judge, how she held a violin like a weapon of misdirection, and how the moment she sang the first word, the audience exploded into an uproar no one could control. She stood backstage trembling, fingers lightly gripping the polished wooden violin as if it were her last lifeline. The lights behind her created a golden outline around her silhouette, and you could see the raw nerves shaking inside her body. But if you looked closely, closer than the camera usually showed, you would notice something else. A fire. A small, quiet, determined flame burning in her eyes. She had waited years for this moment. Years of people telling her she was good but not special enough. People telling her she needed to choose one talent, either violin or vocals, but not both. People telling her that talent shows were made for viral acts, not for girls like her who didn't fit into any box. But today she wasn't there to fit into a box. She was there to break it. The stage manager whispered her name softly, telling her she was next. She took one deep breath, closed her eyes, and in that single inhale tried to gather every ounce of confidence she ever had. She remembered late nights practicing in her tiny bedroom, tears falling on the violin's surface because she couldn't get the sound right. She remembered the cracked mirror she used for singing practice, a mirror that heard her whisper her dreams every night. She remembered her mother sitting silently at the edge of her bed, telling her in a soft voice that dreams don't die on their own, people kill them by giving up. And she remembered her father who never believed music was a real future, who folded his arms every time she practiced, shaking his head like she was wasting her life. Maybe that's why this moment mattered so much. This wasn't just a performance. This was a statement, a quiet rebellion wrapped inside a melody. And the judges had no idea what was coming. As she stepped onto the stage, the crowd softened into a curious hush. You could almost feel thousands of eyes scanning her, trying to decode who she was. She didn't look flashy. She didn't walk in with confidence that screamed stardom. She looked normal, a simple girl holding a violin. And because of that, everyone's expectation dropped to a very average line. The judges leaned forward just enough to show interest, but not excitement. She positioned herself in front of them and offered a shy smile. The tallest judge asked her name and why she was there. She answered with a voice that shook slightly, betraying nervous energy. She explained that she loved both violin and singing, but today she would start with violin. The judges nodded politely, thinking they already understood the entire performance before it even began. They had seen 100 violinists. They expected a sweet melody, maybe a classical piece, maybe even a modern twist. But nothing more. What they didn't know was that this performance had been planned with surgical precision. She wasn't there to show what she usually did. She was there to create a moment that would live forever on the internet, a moment that would rise above thousands of auditions and carve her name into the memory of anyone who watched. She lifted the violin to her shoulder, placed the bow gently across the strings, and the first note sang into the arena. It was soft, smooth, and pure, unexpectedly pure. The kind of note that makes people sit up a little straighter because they feel something they didn't expect to feel. Her bow moved gracefully, almost like a dancer. Gliding across a stage, her fingers warmed up the strings with elegant precision, and for the next 30 seconds, the arena was wrapped in a melody that could have come from a concert hall. The judges nodded, impressed but not astonished. They had seen good violinists before. The audience murmured with appreciation, but no one stood. No one screamed. No one felt the need to grab their chest and gasp. They simply enjoyed it, politely. But that's exactly what she wanted. She ended the violin intro with a lingering final note that hovered in the air like a thread made of gold. Then she lowered the violin. The judges still didn't know what was coming. They thought the performance was over or at least about to end. One of them even leaned back in his chair, ready to deliver the usual feedback. But then she took one step forward. The entire arena unconsciously leaned with her, drawn by the subtle shift in her posture. She wasn't trembling anymore. Her eyes sharpened. Something changed in her expression, as if she had just unlocked a part of herself that had been waiting silently in the shadows. She opened her mouth. The first note she sang didn't just fill the room, it detonated inside it. It was powerful, rich, and shockingly emotional, as if a completely different person had taken over her body. The judge's eyes snapped open wide. One of them dropped his pen. The audience gasped collectively, 1,000 people inhaling at the same time. Her voice wasn't just good, it was commanding. Deep yet angelic, soft but explosive. It wasn't the voice of a shy girl who played pretty melodies on a violin. It was the voice of someone born to bend the air around her, someone who could touch people without even looking at them. She didn't ease into the vocals. She rocketed into them with confidence that stunned everyone. The arena lights responded as if they knew something incredible had begun. Her voice carried pain, triumph, heartbreak, and hope, all wrapped inside a single breath. Every word she sang seemed to hit a nerve in the room. People sat frozen, unsure whether to scream or cry. Halfway through the song, she lifted the violin again, but this time it wasn't for a gentle melody. She launched into a powerful, fast, rhythm-driven section that matched her vocals perfectly. Singing and playing at the same time, she created a fusion that felt impossible. The judges leaned so far forward they almost left their seats. No one expected her to blend both skills at once, especially not at this level. The combination created an electrifying storm that rippled through the audience like a pulse of pure energy. People began standing, first one, then a row, then an entire side of the arena. Within seconds the whole room was rising to their feet, unable to stay seated through something so explosive. Her voice soared higher, her bow moved faster, tears formed in the eyes of strangers who didn't even know her name yet. She wasn't just performing, she was releasing something she had held inside for years, every rejection, every doubt, every silent night where she wondered if she should give up her dream. It was all coming out in this one thunderous performance. The judges exchanged looks that said everything. Shock, disbelief, awe. They were watching something that rarely happened on that stage. A moment that nobody predicted yet everyone instantly recognized as historic. And she stood in the center of it like she had been born for this exact second. Then came the moment that would go viral, the moment everyone would replay 1,000 times. She dropped the violin completely, letting it hang loosely by her side, and launched into the final belt note that felt like a lightning strike hitting the stage. The entire arena exploded, people screamed, with everything they had, and the judges slammed their hands on the table. The last note echoed like a wave before fading into silence. Silence that lasted only a second before the eruption hit. The audience screamed, judges stood, one of them covered their face with both hands. Another pointed at her as if they couldn't believe she had tricked them so smoothly. The host backstage was frozen with his mouth open, staring in disbelief at the monitors. She blinked through tears, struggling to understand what she had just created. A standing ovation so loud it shook the floor. The judges speaking over one another, trying to express something no words could truly capture. The crowd chanting, cameras flashing, phones held in the air, and for the first time in her life, she felt truly seen, not just heard, not just watched, but seen. One judge told her she had created one of the biggest surprises the show had ever witnessed. Another said her voice alone could have carried the entire performance, but her violin elevated it into something unforgettable. The third judge admitted she had tricked them brilliantly, that the misdirection made the moment even more powerful. And then came the final decision. The judge in the center smiled at her with a look that made the audience go silent again. He reached toward the golden button, hovering his hand above it, letting the anticipation rise like fire climbing through the air. She covered her mouth with both hands, trembling again, but this time it wasn't fear. It was realization. It was hope turning into reality. The judge slammed the golden button. The stage exploded into gold. Confetti rained down like 1,000 falling stars. The audience roared louder than ever. The host ran out and hugged her as she broke down in tears. The judges stood beneath the golden storm, cheering with her, celebrating the moment she had fought years to create. In that glittering shower, she understood something deeply. She had not just surprised the judges. She had proven something to herself, that she didn't need to choose one talent. That she didn't need to fit into a box. That she was allowed to be everything she truly was. And as the golden confetti stuck to her hair and the music of victory echoed through the arena, she lifted her violin once more, not to play it, but simply to hold it like the symbol it had always been. A symbol of her struggle. A symbol of her passion. A symbol of the twist that changed her life forever. Because she walked in as a shy violinist. But she walked out as a superstar no one would ever forget.